Hello and welcome to our tutorial on making a keychain in Inventor that will eventually be 3D printed. Our first goal is to determine what we want to make a keychain of. So you can make it about pretty much anything, but there's a couple of small constraints. So in order to figure out first off what we're going to be using, or we need a stencil to base our keychain off of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up some images. So I'm going to look up Google Images. Okay, this pops up. I just have to click on Google Images and I can type in my topic. So for me, I want to do the Spider-Man logo, so I'm going to look up Spider-Man logo, and I get a whole bunch of ideas. Some of them look great and have really cool shapes. For example, this looks really cool, but there's some problems with using this one. If you look at the legs are really kind of sharp, and one of the issues we run into is that the lines might be too close together. So instead I'm going to choose this one right here. It's just a little bit easier to work with. The lines are thicker, and I won't run into any problems with 3D printing. So it's not that Inventor won't be able to do it, it's that the 3D printer might not be able to draw your keychain exactly as you want it to. So I'm going to click on View Image, and then I'm going to right click on it and then go Save Image As. Now, where you save it to is I would suggest saving it to your folder. So currently I am on my own computer, so I don't have a folder set up like you do, but you should have a folder on your D drive, and you'd want to save it to that folder under your Inventor files folder. Okay, so I'm just going to call this Spider-Man logo, and I'm going to save image. I've done this a few times, as you can see, so I'm just going to replace that one. Now, when you start up, how to start up Inventor. So now that you've done this, you can start up Inventor. If you click on the little Windows icon and type in Invent, you should see Autodesk Inventor Professional and Inventor Fusion 2013. You want to choose the one that says Inventor Professional, and you will have a the 2015 version, while I have the 2013 version. So while I'm living in the past, you won't be. Make sure not to click on Inventor Fusion, otherwise the rest of this tutorial will not make any sense to you. So once again, Inventor Professional 2013. I've already opened it up because I don't want to wait for it to start up. And when you open it up, it's going to look something like this. You want to click on New, or if this doesn't show up, you don't see this window at all, you can click on the New button up here. So that would be in this case. So if it looks like this, you click on the New button. If it looks like this, you click on this New button. It doesn't really matter. So I've done some work in the other one, so I'm actually just going to close this one down. I don't need this window anymore. I'm going to go into this one. I'm going to click on New. I'm going to go to Standard Millimeter. And here's the deal. When you load this up, you want to make sure you click on the folder that says Metric and choose Standard Millimeter IPT. Standard Millimeter IPT, okay? Nothing else. See how there's other standard millimeters? You don't want to choose any of them. You want to choose the one that ends with IPT. Click on Create. Now it creates a 3D space on which we can design our 3D in which we can design our 3D keychain. The first thing we're going to do is create a 2D sketch, and we need to do that in order to make something 3D. So Inventor needs a 2D sketch which to convert into a 3D object. So we click on Create 2D Sketch, and we're going to select this plane right here. Now I want to load up my files, so the image I just found on Google Images. So I'm going to go move my mouse up to just, as you can see, it says Insert here, Image. And then I'm going to choose my Spider-Man logo to insert into there. And you'll notice that it's going to be really big. And so Inventor's got a cool feature. We all have a mouse wheel. So what you do is all you got to do is roll your mouse wheel up or down, and you'll notice that it zooms in or out. The next thing is, you see how we've got this like X and Y, these two thick lines and a center? Well, I want to move it so it's actually in the middle. So I'm going to, that same mouse wheel, I'm going to click with the mouse wheel, and you see a little hand appear, and I'm going to drag. Click, and remember, that's clicking with the mouse wheel. I'll click and place that there. I only want to place it once, and I'm going to hit Escape. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension this thing, which means I want to set the size of it. Your keychains are going to be very specific in their sizing. And so to make my life a little bit easier, we're going to make sure that our keychains are 70 millimeters across. So that's 7 centimeters. So click on dimension. I'm going to choose one side, doesn't matter. It does matter. You want to choose the longest side. If it's a square object, doesn't matter, or a square picture. If you've got a rectangular picture, you want to choose the longest side, click on it, and change this number to 70 mm and hit enter. It's going to make it a little bit smaller, but that's totally fine. And so now when you make your sketch, it'll be 70 millimeters at most from end to end. If you happen to have a picture that's in the middle of a really, like if the picture is white, except for a small image in the middle, then talk to me and I'll talk to you, walk you through what to do in that situation. So you might need to edit the image. So I'm going to click on Finish Sketch, and now I've got my image inserted. Now I'm going to start another sketch, and so actually I'm going to call this sketch right here. You see over here, you see it says Sketch 1. I'm going to click on it once more until I can, sorry, let me do that again. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to, there used to be a rename function, so we might have to do this the old-fashioned way, which is I'm going to click once on it until I see this box open up, hit delete, the delete key, and I'm going to type in image. And that means that my image is on that sketch. I'm going to make another one. Click on Create 2D Sketch. I'm going to click on the very same plane. And now I'm going to zoom in on this, and I'm going to start drawing my lines. And I'm going to start tracing this out. So I'm going to use, now there's a bunch of tools like arc and circle and spline and all that. What I've found is the easiest thing to do in Inventor is to use the line tool, even for curves, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. So I'm going to click on line, and even though, and I'll show you this quickly, even though I can do lines like that, they're all angled, the interesting part is when you draw lines really close together and change them just a little bit, you can create a line, something that looks like a curve that's really a bunch of just differently angled lines. So I'm going to click on line again. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to choose a spot to start. Now, some of you might notice you can't quite get your mouse where you want it to go. And that's because there's this function called grid snap that's selected. So if you notice it's doing this weird jumpy thing, move your mouse down here, and you'll see this little magnet with a grid, and it says snap to grid. I'm going to click on that to get rid of it, and look, now I can move it freely. So I'm going to start drawing here, and I'm going to zoom in. And if you notice it's kind of getting stuck on these, like it says so many degrees, just zoom in, draw it in, and just start tracing. You can zoom out, and you can use that middle click to move it over. And you'll notice what I'm doing is I'm just following the sketch. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just drawing a bunch of straight lines that at some point when the line can no longer trace it, I just stop, I click once. So every single line here is every single time I change the type of line, I just click. So click, click. In this case, I maybe want a little bit finer. Click, 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 and so on. So let me just finish this up. We're going to go in fast forward mode right now. So I'm going to stop drawing right here. And I stopped drawing somewhere in the middle, just like where I thought the middle of this drawing was. And I'm going to move my mouse here, and you'll notice that what I've done is I've actually, in order to stop drawing, I've hit the escape button. So I hit the escape button, and it automatically stopped drawing lines. Now if I want to continue drawing, let's say I made a mistake and, I actually made a mistake there. I can move my mouse up here to the undo button and click undo, and it'll undo any lines that I did. If I go too far, I can go, redo. So this button right here is undo, and this is redo. So if you make a mistake, like let's say I went back too far, I was like, I didn't want that many lines to be removed, I can just go forward. So that's a way of undoing. Another trick you can do is if you want to delete a line is you can click on it, and then you can hit right click on it, and you can choose delete, or, and I'm going to undo that, I can click on it, and I can just hit the delete button. So both work, and in some cases one will work but the other won't. So I actually want that line. Now let's say you accidentally, you drew a bad line, you had to undo it, you hit escape, you undid it, and you want to continue drawing. You just got to take your mouse and move it back until you see a green dot appear. Okay? See that green dot? That'll tell you that you're starting right where you stopped. It's snapping to the corner of the last line you worked on. So the green dot's what your friend. Now the reason I stopped here is because I'm going to do something for what we like a trick for symmetric drawings, which is I'm only going to draw, and symmetric means the left half is the same as the right half. And so I'm going to start by drawing a line straight down the middle, and you'll notice it'll automatically guide your straight line. And it doesn't have to like connect to the bottom, it just has to go straight down. Okay? And then hit the escape button. So the click you heard was me hitting the escape button. I'm going to then trace only this side, until I reach here. And so once again, we're going to zoom in on where I last started, when I started my drawing. And I'm going to go into, we're going to put this in fast forward mode while I trace this out. Okay, now we're almost done drawing this part right here. And so now I've reached the ending, and you're probably wondering, well, how do I know if I've reached the end? Well, okay, so if I zoom in, you'll notice that this thing's already, like as I move it, all of a sudden it jumps right onto the line. And you see how it's on the line? Well, I'm going to make sure that it's actually on the line. I'm actually going to go a little bit further past it. And then I'm going to hit the escape button. And then I'm going to use what's called the trim function. And what that'll do is it'll get rid of any extra lines. Now, Inventor is very weird. It doesn't like any gaps. So for example, I'm actually going to just delete this, okay? I'm going to show you what I mean. Inventor does not like gaps. And so right now, and what it wants is what's called a closed shape. So right now, if I start over here and I follow the line all the way around, and I get down to here, I need to be able to go back to where I started. That's what Inventor wants. It says if I follow the line all the way around, I should be able to get back to where I started. And you'll notice that what happens is I can't. I'll stop here and I have to jump a gap. There's no line leading me there. And so I'm going to, in order to do that, I've got to take this line and connect it to this guy right here. And so now I can go all the way back. Inventor's all, and so as long as I've got a closed shape, Inventor will allow me to make it 3D. And I'll show you this just now. You don't have to do this. Please don't do this. Just watch this part. I'm going to show you why it matters. So I'm going to click Finish Sketch. You're not going to click Finish Sketch. You're going to just watch the video. And I'm going to click on the Extrude function, which makes stuff 3D. And you'll notice I can't make this 3D. It's just not letting me do it. So I'm going to go Cancel. And here's a bit of a trick. So for example, I finished my sketch. Let's say this is something that you might find useful. Let's say class ends, or you're done working on this and you have to go do something else and you want to come back to it. When you open up your file, you're going to see this. Don't just start a new sketch. You want to make sure you go back to your original sketch. The reason being is Inventor, think about it this way. If you're making a piece of art, you don't want to draw half of it on one page and half of it on another page, unless you're trying to do some sort of postmodern thing. What you're trying to do is you want to make sure your sketches are on both pages, so when I look at that, on one page, so that when I look at that one page, I see your full artwork. So that's why you have to go back in your original sketch. So I'm going to double click on the one that I was working on, and if I move my mouse away, you'll notice when I move my mouse onto it, it highlights what was last drawn, or what drawings are on there. If I put it, it'll highlight the image. So image is highlighted, drawing is highlighted. So I'm going to double click on the drawing part, and I can go back and I can work on it where I left off. And so the last thing I need to do is connect these lines, and boom. Now the final thing I'm going to finish off with, and I'm going to use something called a trim function. I mentioned it earlier, and then I've been off on a bit of a tangent. I'm going to click on trim, I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to trim away this line. This extra line I didn't need. And you'll notice now I've got this nice shape, but only half of it. So I'm going to use what's called a mirror function to make an exact copy but on the other side. So I'm going to move my mouse up to here where it says mirror, right above pattern. I'm going to draw a box around, so start from the top corner, and I'm trying not to select everything but the line that I drew that connects the top. So I'm going to click that, zoom out, and I'm going to make sure I zoomed in, and I also clicked on this guy right here. But I'm not going to click on the center line. So I'm going to click everything but this line down the middle. Now, because that is what's called my mirror line, so I've selected what I need. Now I'm going to click on mirror line, I'm going to select the center line, and I'm going to click apply. And I don't know if you noticed this, but it's taken my drawing and it's copied it over pretty closely. It's not exact, but that's because this line's not exactly in the center. But it doesn't really matter. It's still going to look great. So I'm going to click on done. I don't need this mirror line anymore. I'm going to click on it, and remember how we said hit delete. And then I'm going to click finish sketch. Now if everything went well, this is a perfectly closed sphere, which is perfectly closed shape, which means I can go all the way around without reaching any gaps and return to where I started. I'm going to extrude this, and I'm going to choose, it's going to give you something random. It's going to have a random number in there. Now, if we make it too thick, it's going to take forever to print, and it'll also look kind of ugly. This represents 3 millimeters, which is actually pretty decent thickness for your 3D printed keychain. The maximum thickness I'm going for is 6. So 6 millimeters is the maximum thickness that this thing can be. So how do I can change this to 6, and it'll make it quite a bit thicker. Now, you might want a backing, like a little circle behind it or something on the back of your shape or on your design. And so if you want that to be the case, make this number 3. I'm going to show you how to make one. But if you like the way it is and you just want the shape, you can make it 6. Okay? So I'm going to make it 3 for now. I'm going to hit check mark, and you can see my picture. Or sorry, not my picture, but my keychain in its 3D glory. And I'm going to make the image invisible just so we can see it. So this is what it looks like. It looks pretty nice, actually. Okay, so now one thing I'm doing right here is I'm doing what's called a rotate function. What you can do is you can click on this block and you can just rotate it around to do that, or you can press and hold shift while middle clicking, and this kind of these two arrows will appear on your screen where your mouse is and allow you to rotate. If you're going to return back to what it looked like before, you can hit home, little house, and it'll kind of just give you a general view on it. Now, I don't need the image anymore, so if you want to make this image invisible, all you got to do is right click and go visibility to make it visible, right click and click on visibility to make it invisible. So unclick it. See, it's not clicked. So now that I've made my my design 3D, I want to move on to add a backing. Remember how I said you can choose to have one or not? I want one on my keychain. So I'm going to take this thing and press shift, and I'm going to rotate it, or you can use this to rotate it as well, so I can see the back of the design. I'm going to click on create 2D sketch, and I'm going to select the back of the design. Now the back and the front look very similar, so this doesn't really matter, but there's a reason that I want to do it this way. Now, you're going to click on circle, and you're going to look for what might be the center of your object. It's really tough to figure out where that is, but you're going to have to kind of guess, and I'll show you a way that we can move things around. So I'm going to click in the middle there, and then move this until I have a circle that's, as you can see, I didn't quite choose the center because you can already tell that this circle is not exactly in the middle. Or sorry, my shape, my Spider-Man logo is not exactly in the middle. Now it doesn't have to be a circle, it can be a square, it can be a rectangle, it can be whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to try and move this around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the circle using the move function. I'm going to click on move up here. Once again, I want to select the shape that I'm moving. So, oh whoops, let's click on select. If that doesn't show up, it means this isn't selected. This is the select button isn't clicked. And then I'm going to choose base point. So click on this arrow for base point, I'm going to choose the center of the circle. And then I'm going to move it around until it kind of is in the right spot for what I want. So kind of a little bit over. I think that's pretty good actually. Right there. It's not bad. Maybe I'll try it again. See if I can make a better, put it in the proper spot. I think that's a little bit better. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Just try to do your best for this. Hit Finish Sketch, and then we're going to use the Extrude function. So I'm going to click on Extrude, and you'll notice that Inventor is pretty smart. It said, hey, there's a closed shape there. I know what to do with it. Now, as you can see, it's giving me a backing for this thing. And I can hit check mark, and what do you know? Now, you might notice it's really hard to see your design, so just click on View up here, go to Visual Style, and choose Shaded with Edges, and now you can see the edges of your design. So the last thing I'm going to do is try and make a hole, and then eventually just add some color. Now, the color won't affect how this thing 3D prints, but it's just nice to add some color. To do so, we're going to go and create a 2D sketch. I'm going to click on this surface right here, and we're going to make a circle right here. Now, you're going to need to make this just a little big, so I'm just going to randomly size it. I want to make the circle here. You can make it anywhere you want, over here, down here, in the middle, whatever you'd like. And I'm going to dimension this so that it's 5 millimeters. I think that should be a good distance. The second thing I'm going to do is, let's see if this works, is I'm going to click on Move, and I'll move this just a little further away. It's a little bit close. So remember how we did this? We select the outside, center, just move this down a little, and we're good. Click on Done. Then you're going to click on Finish Sketch, choose Extrude, select your circle, and click on Cut. And so you'll see you have some options. Usually this is the one that's automatically chosen, but you have to move your mouse and click on Cut, or you can say, oh, I want to go the direction 2, or choose the opposite direction. Or you can do this, you can pull it up and down until it cuts it through. I'm going to choose my distance as all, and it'll automatically cut all the way through, as you can see. And I'm going to hit OK. Now I've got a nice little keychain hole at the top of my Spider-Man keychain. Now, before I finish this off, I'm going to do something that we should have done a bit earlier. Let's say I've gotten partway through my keychain and I need to quit the program. I'm going to go and click on iPro and click on Save As. And I'm going to save it as, and here's where the key thing comes in, your name, so in my case it's my last name, what you're making, keychain, and which version is it. So if this is the first time you're saving, you want to call it version 1. If you've already worked on it and you came back and you opened it up again, you want to call it version 2. Since this is the first time I'm saving, version 1, and I'm going to save it. It'll ask for the Spider-Man thing. Just go skip for now. Just let it, if it gives you that message, you can just click on skip. The next step we're going to do is we're going to color this thing. So the way you do that is you go to Tools, you click on the shape you want, the surface you want to color, and you click on Adjust. And what that'll do is it'll allow you to change what color you want to make it. So I want to make that black. Automatically color that black. Then hit Escape. I'm going to select the backing. Oh, let's try that again. Click on black and then click on check mark to select it. The next thing is I can go to Adjust. The backing name, I want it to be red. Choose red. Select there. Make that red. And then click on my check mark. Now I've got this cool looking Spider-Man red and black logo thing. You can do the sides as well if you'd like, and make it look really nice. Since that's my next change, I'm going to quit this tutorial by clicking on my iPro not clicking on save, clicking on save as, and calling this keychain version 2, or if I'm done, I'm going to call it final. So keychain final. I'm going to save it. Once again, skip that since we no longer need that picture. And voila. And that's it for our keychain tutorial. Thanks for listening.